Hi folks, welcome to, I think this is part 7 of the Orion build. This is another sort of quick update really, because in the last one I was showing how I'd come up with the figures for the interior based on the Aries figures that I had to scale them down to 1/100 scale, and really this video's just showing what's left to do prior to sticking all of this together and putting it inside the fuselage, and hopefully going to be able to see some of it through the windows. So starting off with the ceiling of the passenger cabin. Now, I did mention in the last video that I'd covered over the sort of side lights and just left the central roof lights open. I've put a strip of diffuser that I cut off the edge of a sheet of the diffusing material that you get with some of the Paragraphics lighting kits, and it's just a scrap, like the sort of margin off the edge of the sheet, and I've put that over there. And I'm going to put a tube on there with two LEDs shining down to make sure all those lights light up evenly, and that should be enough to light the cabin. But what I noticed, I went into the video of the movie to just have a look at which seat Floyd was sitting in, and I noticed that although these lights here down this side aren't lit, the two more or less directly above or just behind where he's sitting are lit. So they're almost like sort of, command lights, for sort of reading or whatever, a bit like they have on a typical airliner, where some lights are on while people are still awake while the rest of the passengers are asleep. So so it's something I'd never noticed before, but it's strange how you've seen a movie, hundreds of times and never seen something. So what I did, I had to cut a piece of this white styrene out, and I've built a little box in there and put an SMD in there, and this is all still fairly loose at the moment. But if I connect it up to a battery. Now, I run everything off 9 volts, which involves fitting a resistor to the lights. But you can see there, those lights have just come on. So you can see there's a bit of a light leak on the back. I'll cover that with some foil to hide that. They look very bright on there, but they're not as bright in reality. They're just about the right the right colour, like a warm white. And hopefully they'll just sort of pick up in the ceiling. They're not going to light much, but hopefully you'll see those as you look through the window as the only lights that are lit. So it's worth noting where they are. Looking at that there, what are they? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 7 from the front, and that just about behind where his seat is. So that's the ceiling. I've also got the passenger cabin. You'll notice that now, and I may have to sort of bring this up. I'll put a bit of card behind it to try and make it focus a little bit better. But if we can sort of get that to focus a bit, and they are tiny, these figures. There's Floyd asleep in his seat with his arm sort of floating in the walkway, and there's the stewardess come to pick the pen up. Now he's simply glued into the seat. Let's just see if we can. The seats are very black on this, aren't they? So you can't really see which seat he's in. Oh, there you go. So he's actually in the center seat of that aisle. So he's got 4 seats in front of him, 4 seats behind him, and if you watch the video you can sort of count how many seats there are in front and behind from the different views you get in the movie. He's just glued in the seat. She's got a tiny wire inserted into her foot and then inserted into the walkway, because I didn't want to come in loose at some point, you know, once it's all sealed up and just sort of rattling around inside. So she's actually mounted on a wire that goes into the floor. I don't know whether I can get a slightly better view of these. It does blur. Oh, there you go, slightly better. You can see, or just about see, she's got a tiny blue Pan Am wings on her tunic, and even tinier, and you probably may not make that out on the video, in the center of her what would you call it, a headgear. It's like a hat, but it's like a padded hat, isn't it? It's not really a helmet, but there's a gold badge, so a tiny little blob of gold paint there to highlight that. And painting wise, I just simply painted it entirely white and then picked out her hands and face with some flesh. There's no detail there really, and you're not going to really see that very well. You can see that Floyd's in his brown suit, bit of hair on his head, and you know, flesh for his face and his hands. Again, I don't really know whether I'm going to see any of this once it's together, but at least it's there. The lighting for this at the moment, if I just wire this up and show you this, all these lights will be sort of interconnected so that everything runs off one supply. But I'll just connect this battery up, and you can see on the back there this will all get painted out and some foil on to hide the light leaks. On the front you can just about make out the weightless signs on the screens. There's a tiny light leak alongside the door there, which I'll just go over a little bit with some grey paint and pick that out so you don't notice that. Although, to be honest, once it's all in the cabin, I think you'd be hard pressed to see that anyway. But the only way you can really tell that they're lit is if I take my finger off the battery, you'll see them go out. See? So, but you know, you can read these under a magnifier, but you're never ever going to notice, unless you know what was on those screens. They'll just look like two little points of light at the end of the cabin. So so that's that. And then the other lighting part of the interior is the cockpit. Now again, if I bring this up on a card, it might pick up a little bit better. Let's change hands there. So you can see the two pilots there sat in their seats at the front. I had to carve a little bit off the back of them to get them to fit inside the seats, because the seats are very, very narrow. They're much narrower than the passenger seats. But they went in, and you know, the heads are sort of slightly above the headrests, but you know, so what? It doesn't really matter. At least they still fit in the cabin. Behind them, underneath this roof piece, which I haven't glued in yet, is another stewardess sat in the back in one of the little seats in the back there. And you notice the lights in the ceiling there, which if I put this together again now, and I'll wire this one up on the end of the wires, and you'll notice then that the light, you can see there you go, you can see the light shining through that little module on the top there, which will hide. You can also see that light very bright between the two pilots there, but looking from the only direction you can see, which is looking forwards, you can't see that. It just throws some light on the pilots, and you can see the stewardess in the back very, very clearly. this, you know, on the video it all looks a bit washed out and over bright, but it is quite a nice looking light when you see it, you know, with the naked eye. So looking through the windows there, the good thing is you can see the rear cabin, you can see the door at the back, and hopefully it'll just give the impression of something happening in there. So that I'm quite pleased with the way that's come out, to be honest. I could have lit the instruments, but as I say, you can barely see the instruments when the whole thing's together. I think that might be why they didn't give any decals for the instruments in the original kit, because it's almost invisible, the control panel, when viewed from outside. So that's that ready to install. And the other piece of lighting is, here's the rear section, the engine section. Now what I've done here is it's all been cleaned up, it's all been seamed, ready to attach to the main fuselage. You might remember, if you saw the other video, that I put these strakes in inside the thing. You can see them there actually, which show up quite well. Now this is just add a coat of primer and then a coat of satin black over the top, and I'm going to mask all this off completely, attach this to the rest of the plane, and then you know, obviously paint all the white and the shades of grey and everything, and then I'll peel this off at the end, and it'll just be this nice black here, and I'll probably just weather it with some weathering powders, some very dark grey or something, just to pick out those streaks and to make it look more like an exhaust. Obviously these won't be black, these will be painted white once everything's been masked off here. They just caught the overspray there. But at the back of it, you can't actually see at the moment, but if I light this up, I've installed the blue engine lights, and there they are in the back. Now although they look a bit pale, well, burly blue, more like an off-white there, when you actually look at them with the naked eye, they are blue, and they're quite even because of the way that I've had the LEDs firing into the cylinders that are made inside. I don't know whether you can see the inside the back there. Now it's lit, you can see the little module that I put inside. But obviously all this black paint has sort of guarded against any light leaks, and by the time it's had plenty of paint on the outside, there won't be any light leaking through the fuselage. But they give like a nice even blue glow to those engines. So again, I'm quite pleased with those, because it was quite fiddly to get the lights back in there, but they've been epoxied in now, so they're not going to come out. And again, all this will be wired in all together, and then the single feed sent down the brass tubing that's going to form the stand. So really, there's not a lot else to show really. I mean, it's probably worth pointing out, if you didn't see the other video, I've used these pre-wired SMDs for a lot of the lighting, and they've been sent with these resistors. I'm not sure what size resistor they are. Where are they? Yellow, blue and red. So that's 460 ohm, I think. Yeah, 460 ohm, I think they are. But that's plenty for a 9-volt battery. And by the time everything's running off the single power source, it'll you know, sort of step it down a little tiny bit, the brightness. So yeah, it's coming together quite nicely now. So this was the real struggle to get all this done, particularly the figures. There's just those lights to do in the ceiling, which I'm going to do next, and once all that's done, the whole thing will go together and go inside the fuselage. The fuselage itself, I mentioned in the last video that I was going to paint these. These have had a coat of primer and a coat of white paint on these, and I'll slightly weather them. I'll give them a coat of satin lacquer, and then I'm going to mask all this off, put the glazing in from behind, and that'll just stay masked then until the rest of the thing's been painted up. There's nothing been done to the inside because you don't really see any of that, because the actual modules, you know, the passenger module and the cockpit module are self-contained. And then this will all obviously get a complete coat of primer, and then the white, and then the various greys, and there's some sort of pale bluish panels on them. The other little bit of lighting I've got to do is the wing tips and these navigation lights here, but they're literally just going to be an LED shining through a hole, so they'll very quickly go in. It'll probably take me an hour to get all that set up, and obviously for the wingtip lights I'll use a red LED for the red side and a green one for the green side, and then it's pretty much ready to go together. So the next video, this should be in one piece with the interior already fitted, and you know, there's maybe 1 or 2 more videos to come, just, you know, of the paint finish, and then the decals. I've got the obviously the logos for the Pan Am circle there, and the Pan Am along the fuselage and on the wings, and then all these tiny stencils to go on. So the whole thing will get a coat of lacquer, then decal it, and then obviously finish it off with a matte coat before the masking comes off for the glazing. And all being well, 2 more videos, this should be done. So as ever, any questions or anything, just add them at the in the comments, and I'll be happy to answer any questions. And I'll see you in the next one. Thanks.